slide down the standings. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games, and it hasn't really been pretty. The Renegades, again, they face a somewhat easier schedule. Immortals and CLG are already off the table for the back half of the split, and so, hey look, 3 wins gets you back up in Team Impulse, Team Dignitas territory. And getting out of 10th place is a really big deal. You get a much worse road into the promotion relegation bracket if you stick down in 10th. There is room to go up here. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but Renegades need to start pulling up these wins. We'll see if they can do it as the picks and bans begin. Lulu, Corki, a lot of Yordle hate from NRG.
Yeah, and you were talking about the pressure that they're feeling, and I think the pressure is even more relieved here, and they get to focus on themselves because there's no auto-relegation now, so they don't have to worry about this is a must-win game. It's focusing on themselves, like Phreak was saying. Just get better and perform better than you did last game. You're not against your opponent, you're against yourself at this point, just to improve.
So here we go with Gragas off the table as well. Crumbzz actually did very well on that champion. In fact, 3 days ago when he subbed in for Team Dragon Knights over in Challenger. So NRG doing a little bit of research, seeing what Crumbzz has been good at. Kindred off the table from Moon. Interesting, we don't see we don't see them banned all that often, but it does leave Kog'Maw first pick up. Leaves Kalista and every support possible up on the other side here for Renegades.
So the jungle pool has been kind of choked out here. Kindred, Nidalee, Gragas, you have Rek'Sai still up. There's some other, you can go for the Udyr that we've been seeing a lot of, but I definitely think that the Kog'Maw, you have to find something to deal with it, and this is a great answer.
And we've been seeing a continued shift. I know some of this is biased by Kog'Maw being in the game, but a shift towards Braum over Alistar ever since his heal nerfs came in 6.3. Braum seems a bit more favored. Also, of course, he has that great innate synergy with Kog'Maw. The increased attack speed means the stun's going to land. Also, he can block all the skill shots that would normally try to bring in Kog'Maw. But either way, Braum grabbed right away. Renegades really want that champion, and just securing the Kalista for Phreak, who's very good at that champion.
Yeah, and Kalista is a very high mechanics champion, and you know, Phreak can deliver on that. But taking the Braum away from Kog'Maw makes it so that that's no longer a punishing lane that has kill potential on you. The Janna is still like right underneath Braum in terms of Kog'Maw kill pressure, but you have a lot easier time keeping him alive and making sure that you have the disengage. So
we'll see how well the disengage goes. Kog'Maw certainly could do very well in this game. Elise and Janna picked up alongside, so not a team fighting jungler for Moon really, but certainly the disengaging support you expect to see out of KonKwon when you're paired with this Kog'Maw here. We'll see how much early game impact Moon can have. It's always fun watching champions like Elise and Lee Sin run around the map. Sure enough, Rek'Sai is picked up for Crumbzz. I think no one is really surprised by this one. Alex though getting the early pick Viktor, wanted to secure that one and leave top lane for last.
Exactly, they want to give Seraph that counter pick because Seraph versus Impact probably a little bit in Impact's favor, but Seraph has been Super Saiyan in LCS games. He's been carrying, when he was on Impulse, he was carrying those games.
He's the top lane KDA leader.
Even the way he lost, he was like 6-3 and 6 on Rise, and he still had a phenomenal game. So giving him counterpick and having a comfortable matchup is going to boost Renegades in this game if they're able to actually have a decent counterpick on hold.
And of course, it continues the Renegades train of finding a top laner that works for them. They had subbed in Flares for a little bit, in for RF, brought RF back, and now they said, oh, let's borrow Seraph from TDK. This should be a better situation. We'll see how good Renegades can be with a more proven top laner here. And as the last few picks come through for NRG, Poppy comes through for Impact as the blind pick, and as well as GBM, once again grabbing Zilean. And talk about ways to keep a Kog'Maw alive. Steadfast Presence, how about a revive, how about a knockback from the Janna? And then Elise just to come up the works.
Give him some movement speed while he stands still.
I mean, this is, think about all the old Juggernaut comps, right? Was always Lulu with a Kog'Maw. Make him big, make him run fast, go to town on people. Well, now you can keep Time Warp on basically permanently. Actually, you can with enough CDR. You can keep Time Warp on permanently on the Kog'Maw. And then revive him, things go bad. Fiora's the counterpick on the other side against the Poppy, but of course, Poppy is nerfed and Fiora not really heavily right now in 6.3, so it should go Seraph's way, matchup-wise.
Yep, and give him the counter pick. There isn't too much that you can really comfortably run into a Poppy and say this is a completely dominant matchup. People were originally playing Poppy top against Fiora to have that counter matchup for themselves, but it's pretty much a skill matchup now that Poppy's been nerfed. You can't do that 6 seconds of CC back to back to back with the nerf to Keeper's Verdict. But NRG, their composition, the Zilean here, and I think that the stock in Zilean, Lulu, and also Karma went up when you have these protect the AD carry compositions.
Yeah.
So Zilean is the one that's left because Karma's disabled and Lulu's banned out. So like that pickup here, but once again, it's the Zilean Poppy combination. They ran this originally when they debuted the Zilean, and it worked out perfectly. There's a lot of great combos where you throw the bomb on her, speed her up, make it so that when you're tracking a Poppy, you're thinking about where's the wall relative to me and where's she? When she sped up, it completely throws off your internal timer.
Right. There is one downside here in that the other time they ran this composition was with a Rek'Sai at jungle who is also a move speed-based jungler to get the knockups. So instead of having another engage tool to speed up, you have the Kog'Maw to speed up for disengage. So we'll see how this one works here for NRG. Guys, you're always part of the show. Tweet at NA LCS Esports. Let us know who is going to win this one. Hashtag NRG win or hashtag REN win for NRG eSports or Renegades here. Late into the season, NRG still have their playoff spot in contention here. They could get passed by a couple of teams. Picking up a win here over Renegades is something they should be able to do. But Renegades can climb out of 10th with a few wins in a row. They can bring on up against NRG. Let's see if they can do it.
And this is such a critical week here for NRG. They play Renegades and Impulse, and they have to run a substitute here with Laud. So if they drop these games, these are games that other teams near them in the standings may not drop against Renegades and Impulse, and then they'll get passed over. And that's the worry here for NRG. That's the pressure that's on them in this game.
Yeah, and keep in mind, they still have to play Immortals and CLG, who just beat Immortals. Later on this split, there are some assumed losses on the horizon for NRG, so picking up your wins where you can is a big deal here. Only sitting at 6-6.
30 seconds.
5th place right now, and of course with Liquid just recently getting a win. They could get past before too long. We'll see how this game pans out. We look at the Kog'Maw walking into Tri-Brush, then recalling. Looks like NRG will send their duo lane topside. And I don't believe any of that will get spotted. No deep wards really from either side. I don't believe anyone's gotten spotted in their lane assignments. So this will be a blind-picked lane swap here. NRG initiating. And we'll see if KonKwon can stop Fiora and Rek'Sai from jungling. Similar situation for Haku. Although you almost would rather just take Gromp and start their laning phase in a good spot. And in fact, you're seeing that sort of preparation. If you look down to the bottom right of the screen, Elise and Poppy are taking red buff with a ward and Tri-Brush, which pretty much prevents them from getting invaded on. Like, they'll see Braum now, but Braum will check Crumbzz first.
Yep.
And so they will not get stopped. This is a great adaptation. Grab the buff instead on the greedy side. You don't get punished. Yeah. Haku will show up, but you can just smite the red and no one cares.
But it's a super fast jungle too, because the Poppy Q with the percent HP damage, and then the percent HP damage, and the W from Elise. Takes the W first, of course. Hakuho.
Yeah.
They do split experience though, so no level 2s here.
And Moon's gonna get stunned. Whoa, gets straight to the backside. Has to flash away. Flash, Ren, auto attack would kill. Finally, Flash, then first blood. NRG don't leave in time. Punished by the Renegades invade.
And Moon, this guy, he's been having such a rough season, and when coming onto this team, there were a lot of expectations. He's surrounded by GBM and Impact, and he's been the person that everybody's been trying to exploit. Moon's play has been something that has asked a lot of questions, but KonKwon as well, he's the other guy.
Whoa, knocked up by Crumbzz, who would hit level 2 thanks to getting a bunch of XP. The flash
red
buff, jump forward, NRG completely flopped the early game. This should be 2-0. Laud cannot save him even with the heal.
Wow.
What just happened?
Renegades start the game off 2-0 in 2 minutes?
Yeah. Well, when you screw your lane swap, jungle invade that badly, Renegades making the right calls.
Yeah, they started on that red buff. It was smart, but then what ended up happening is they were punished because it's a Braum. Braum just has such a great invade alongside the Kalista, who has so much mobility early. She's going to be able to out-chase you. And then they decided to brawl there instead of immediately flash away, and that was the big problem. Then KonKwon goes in by himself against a red buff Rek'Sai.
He came in so late.
It was so late, but they're the ones who did the lane swap too.
Yeah.
You should be sending your support in pretty much immediately when you don't see the enemy support and AD carry in the top lane.
Yeah. Well, Renegades getting the first step to this bot lane turret now. I don't believe the turrets will be traded unequally, even despite the bad early trades. Impact just walked up there and KonKwon got back, so this will still be the equal turret trade. Even 2 kills can't stop it from happening in the early game here, Zirene. Yep. No one's that bad at early game lane swaps.
Yep, they're going to be able to pick them up. Mini-wave manipulation on point still.
And Seraph will need a couple hits from Freeze. He would die to the turret. Yeah. Freeze did not absorb XP or gold. Seraph got the full 345 from a localized turret kill. NRG, though, they're late to the party. They will get this anyway. Yeah. It shouldn't be a problem. And honestly, recalling a couple seconds later shouldn't really hurt much. KonKwon actually is going to absorb gold, it looks like. No, he's walking back now. No, he absorbed gold.
He got it.
He Impact killed it too early.
Ooh.
Now, that puts... It basically allows KonKwon to buy 2 extra potions. He got Ruby Crystal and a pink ward. And then, yeah, there's 2 pushes at the end of it.
Yeah, the big worry, though, is that now he's even in gold with Hakuho because he has the assist, but then in the top lane, Seraph's already up 300+ gold.
Which only matters once they finally go and recall and buy items. So the initial part of this lane swap doesn't mean much. I want to see, though, if these guys push in time, because now Impact has to run. He already pushed the wave in. Freeze and Haku can do plenty of damage. Impact, nice dodge! And he still has flash, so I don't expect him to go down here. Haku's Q still going to be down for a while. Nothing going to happen. Able to walk away.
Yep, necessary dodge, bot lane being frozen, and now it looks like they're just going to pressure down the top side on Renegades. Crumbzz putting down the vision, making sure that he has something for Seraph to possibly TP on if somebody stays.
Yeah, and this is the standard ward you put down on the sort of lane swap part 2, where your top laner stops freezing, eventually recalls, the duo lane goes back to the other side of the lane, starts pushing the turret down, and this Rek'Sai ward will make sure that no one's doing anything cheeky. The Renegades, honestly, with a very well-rehearsed and well-executed early game lane swap. This is correct so far from a team that is 1-11. And teams that are 1-11 typically suck at lane swapping. That's kind of how they got to be 1-11.
Yeah, I was about to say. And I think that's also what went through NRG's head, was let's lane swap on them. Their lane swap will not be as sound as ours. We'll be able to exploit them. And I think 100% that was NRG underestimating Renegades.
Totally agree.
Too much hubris there. They walk in, they get punished, and now they see this deficit that they're in.
Yep. And we will end up with a pretty equally traded early game here. Seraph, once again, will be getting solo gold on this turret, which will actually put him at about $100 or so, which puts him basically tied with the mid laner.
Them dollars.
Roughly the same as the Cull freeze here. Now, it is interesting to see what kind of farm is going where, because there's a 19 minion deficit from freeze under Lod. And if it's ever a thing you really like on AD carries, it's money on a Kog'Maw.
Especially early money on a Kog'Maw.
Oh, yeah. Just getting into the early
and
spike of Rageblade, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that people really love that Kog'Maw, is he turns on much earlier than he did before, so he's not as exploitable.
Yep.
And then mid-game, it's up to your team to just group up 2-item power spike, 3 items, before he gets to the point where people just have so many resistances. But luckily for him, nobody's really going to have too many resistances here to actually deal with him.
Nope, he's going to have a good time cutting through people if these team fights happen in the near future. Alex still holding on and outlaning GBM, so props to him. I don't really know Zilean's matchups that well, but
does anybody?
GBM does. But GBM is -11 CS in an undisturbed lane.
Dark Seal as well.
Yeah, Dark Seal into first item tier looks like the build, which is interesting because I thought we were seeing Rod of Ages more so than tier on Zilean. I know we weren't seeing both, but I forgot what the normal build was.
Yeah,
this seems like a diversion.
I believe it's Rod of Ages. You don't usually go for tier. Tier was the old support Zilean solo Q build. And sometimes you got both just because he's so mana hungry. Now he's good.
Not the case here. Freeze did in fact go full second on the lane swap here, so we'll have plenty of money coming in the near future, and Kalista's Ruin King Hurricane won't be too far away.
This is actually pulling GBM towards the top side. So Alex just clears mid, pushes it up, Crumbzz and Moon going back and forth in the jungle, and there's actually sufficient pressure here from Crumbzz.
Yeah, and it's gotten Seraph a whole ton of money right now. 42 CS on this Fiora. He's certainly taken some from Freeze. That's why Freeze's minion kills are so much lower than Lod's. But Renegades made the specific choice to get Seraph ahead so that he could bully Impact. That's happened so far. Yeah, we're seeing now pressure on this bot lane with 4 members. And even Alex is roaming down, so this bot lane tier 2 is under fire. Impact stuck under his own turret, will burn the TP. Moon on the backside stuns up Freeze. Here comes the re-engage, ulti popped by Fiora, and here's the battle, and Freeze gets popped by the double bomb from GBM. The revives on the other team, no chance to get away there. A 1-for-0, great fight by NRG.
Yeah, and Alex was still clearing minion waves, and he wasn't there in that fight. So NRG's superior numbers, and you can see everybody got an assist, and then that kill, and they both used teleport. GBM as well.
Double teleport, they got there, they took the fight, and props to NRG for being behind 2,000 gold and saying, no, don't you dare, we're going to take this fight after all. Successful stuff here.
Looks like he's going to go for both as well, the tier and the Rod of Ages. TP already came in from Seraph, he's already in this fight. The TP comes through, and he's already channeling that E. Buffered it, Impact slams Freeze against the wall. And at that point, he just gets blown up, and he can't really counter anyway.
Really slick. Flash wall stun by Impact, right off the teleport from that ward in the brush. Beautiful stuff there to get them back into a decent spot. And look at that, the vote, 42 to 58%, 6-6 to 1-11. And Renegades still able to pull in the fan following. Maybe Freeze and crew can really do this. Well, today might be the day of upsets, considering the fact that CLG took down Immortals. Maybe we see this one as well. Maybe a longer shot coming into the day, but certainly looking okay for Renegades.
The Renegades, when they made it into the LCS, there were some swaps, and they ended up not doing too well. Of course, sitting at that only one win. But working with Weldon the last 2 weeks, playing against number 1 and 2, they did well. They did rather well against Immortals. So Renegades were still figuring out, and it's funny to say, because we're 2/3 of the way through the season, they're still figuring out how good they actually are and where they stand as players, and not just as a team in the standings.
Well, they need to go at least +3 wins to get out of 10th with 6 games to go. That's going to be a hard task for Renegades here. They can do it. It is possible. Playoffs are theoretically possible, though that requires practically going 6-0 in the last 6 games. But they can maybe reach 7th, and they can almost definitely get out of 10th, which makes the road back into the LCS easier.
Yep, they play all the teams pretty much right above them as well. They play Impulse, Echo Fox, Dignitas.
Yeah.
In their last 6 games. Counting this one as well, the team right above them.
Yep.
Well, actually far above them.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they can do here. Their only win was against Liquid, so tiebreaker is pretty much never going to go in their favor. They will play... actually, they lost to Liquid back in week 5, so they cannot own a tiebreaker over any team. But maybe a 1-to-1 head-to-head could actually matter for them. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's going to be in 3 to 4 weeks.
Top lane, Seraph, a little bit of pressure, but Impact is caught up in CS, and he got that kill. So now Bomby Cinder helps him push. Looking for possibly going after GBM in the mid lane. They're pinging it out, though.
We'll see what they can do. Yeah, GBM forced to walk back in the mid lane here as we keep track on what the action is. And it's Renegades looking for a tower dive on this. Moon will send a Volto Spiderling, say, hey, there's champions here, but no, didn't actually spot them. They walked into the brush in time. Props to Renegades, but not too much damage dealt to Moon. He's alive. He knows that there is an invade coming, that GBM is getting flanked. He's just going to wave clear, double bomb the cannon, knocks down casters immediately. And he's actually going Rod of Ages plus tier, it looks like.
Yep.
So a very slow build from GBM. Not his typical.
Scaling, but it has a lot of payoff later on.
Definitely does.
It becomes very hard to kill as a Zilean.
Impact does stop the recall.
Right out of range.
Grats. Lands the Q. I think Bomby Center did it before the Q did. But he got in range of that. Didn't have a buckler up. Once again, Seraph trying to recall away from this turret. Impact. Okay, this time won't actually stop him out here. Titanic Hydra first coming in from Seraph. Not a surprise there. Quick wave push by Impact as Seraph just had to give away, it looked like.
Yeah, it's cannon minion wave, so he won't lose as many as he normally would have. So recall timing by Seraph. Quite good.
Looks like the early Sunfire going to be Impact's item of choice, but does not have enough money for the combine just yet. 1-0 on this Poppy. Did get that kill off of his great flash stun in his teleport play earlier. There's the Sunfire cape. That's done 12 minutes in. Moon looking to keep control of his own jungle. Does he take stock of this game? Kog'Maw still farming.
Yep. So everybody backed on Renegades in that bot lane, Freeze and Hakuho. So they've been purchasing right before the Dragon came up. Dragon live now, red buff going over to Wad, and he has that Rage Blade. So we might see a conflict here, and I want to see what NRG does here, because they have this Fiora split push. They might get a TP at the least.
Yeah, could totally be a possibility here. We're seeing Fiora slowly pushing, but no outer turrets up. This takes a long time. NRG there in full force with all of their players here. Dragon being attempted. Kog'Maw, of course, kills it fast, but he has to manage that cooldown on his W pretty properly. Impact goes to zone people away, and that will be a Dragon secure. That's number 2 right there. Renegades just walking away. They don't want to take the fight. They just get some farm on Seraph as cost for energy taking the Dragon.
Yeah, Hakuho used his jump there right as the steadfast presence was wearing off.
Yeah. So
it still interrupted his leap, and he had to blow his flash. So support flash down. Hakuho, he's a little bit of a big part of their engage here. If Freeze throws him in, it means that he's going to need that summoner spell to get out, or if he's just going hard.
Yep. And there's really no counterplay available to Renegades. Right before the Dragon went down, GBM walked in and double bombed mid.
Yeah. So
there was no like 5-man mid play for Renegades available. Crumbzz having to flash to walk away from a Void Ooze. Kog'Maw still lands the smite. I believe he got it.
You believe who got it?
Crumbzz.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a green aura around lava. That was his W, I believe. So.
Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see in the thick of combat, but he does have a green oozing aura around him when his W is activated.
Yep. One wave missed by GBM. Alex pushes it in. It's got to be a blue buff coming over. And he gets it. GBM can feel nice about having a whole crap ton of mana regen. Takes up about 20 per second. It's quite a lot of mana. Freeze, nice deep ward down there to help make sure teleport plays are available from Seraph if there is a contest. Really underrated ward spot, I really believe, is just that brush in front of the tier 2 turrets.
Yeah.
Is actually a really big deal. There's a lot of TP plays that can be made based on that vision.
And they have numbers advantage here on Renegade's side, so they'll be able to take this turret no problem. Seraph's down here, whereas Impact is just farming up in the top lane, and that's actually going to be TP.
Okay, so a 5-minute cooldown by Seraph, but it allows bot lane tier 2 to go down, and hey, Renegades earning a +1 turret lead off of map rotations. That is definitely solid. That's definitely a good thing to have here. Gotta feel good for those guys for that play. But NRG still holding a fairly tight game, 2,300 to 25.5. It is definitely a lead for Renegades, but it's 2 dragons to 0, which does, of course, also matter.
I'm just a little confused by the TP. I think he had enough time. Poppy's not the best tower taker until she has Iceborne Gauntlet.
Yeah, I just think he really wanted to save turret health.
And pretty much he did that for turret HP.
Yeah.
We'll see if it ends up paying off later, because sometimes it does.
I mean, it is double TP advantage for Energy.
Yeah.
The thought being that the map is so open, you can see these moves well in advance. Theoretically, you can get up to them in time. And with Dragon Taken recently, TP comes up roughly in time for the Dragon Take. But it's still a 4.5-minute window now where Energy has huge TP advantage, and they should be able to play around.
What do you expect? Of course, both of the Korean players that have that double TP. And Energy have actually seen most of their success when Impact is playing a champion like Poppy. But it's usually when Altec is in the game, from what we've been seeing. Of course, we've been seeing
every single one of them. But
so Altec, in comparison to when GBM is on something like Poppy as opposed to a full tank, it's night and day. Impact engages, Impact peels, and when he has both options available to him, speaking of peeling, he's able to actually give confidence to his team members, and that's where Energy's seeing most of their successes with Impact playing this Poppy.
And now we're in a turret raid scenario. Energy walked back to the bottom lane. The dual lane pushed it down really cleanly. In fact, they're still going. Renegades are pushing almost as quickly. And in fact, there's the Rek'Sai ulti popped by Crumbzz to get back into the base. But, well, that turret's going to go down. There's way more damage dealt by Energy down here. This could really be the turret being killed. And you're right, double TP is still up, so how much you engage is a real big risk. Lod Flash going in and jumped on it. Here comes the Monsoon to save his life for now. And Energy are now suddenly inside the base. Poppy is holding the inhibitor turret alive, where the rest of his team is knocking down the inhibitor itself on this right side of the map. 17 minutes in, Energy holding a numbers advantage, slowly whittling this structure down. Lod putting in the auto attacks. Inhibitor should be falling here, as Crumbzz continues to get knocked farther and farther down. Moon to jump into the air, now jump on towards Seraph. Bit of damage done. Inhibitor finally does fall. That is an inhibitor plus inhibitor turret taken on the better fight chosen by Energy.
Exactly, and the double TP there, Seraph didn't have his to actually answer and get there. He used his back, so he wasn't able to actually get there before the turret had already been taken. And Energy, not as fast on the push in the top lane. The Poppy wave clear is a little bit deceptive because as the wave is coming in, the second part of the queue will blow up if you prep it early. He's also very tanky, so diving him becomes a big problem. But yeah, Renegades, there's still 2,000 gold up, but...
Well, of course, these guys took a lot of damage trying to knock that inhibitor down, so Renegades had a small health bar lead, but Impact pretty much untouched during that whole play. Got to wave clear mid, 1v2, hold everything up, and so to take stock, now Energy are up the inhibitor. They're still down in gold. They're actually still, well, of course, they've re-equalized the turrets with the 2-for-1 on that one. But now there's a big wave constantly pushing into the bot lane.
Yeah, and now what you do is Energy is you all group mid, you ARAM it up, you try to get this turret, and you play around Seraph's TP cooldown. Because if Seraph is split pushing, you just keep sending Impact back. The only turret that Renegades has that's safe to take is that tier 1 mid. So they'd have to answer you mid, or you'd have to go all the way for an inhibitor turret. He's probably going to stay in that bot side and just continue to fight super minions. So it'd be 5-on-4 in the mid lane, and they'll try to get Seraph's TP out. But try to get this last turret for Energy. That's a tier 1. And they have good zoning potential too with the Zilean.
And watching Lod is going to be important to me, because when he's fighting, like, so far the red and the blue buff, he's actually doing his best to orb block in between his auto attacks, to stutter step that little bit of extra distance in between his autos. And when you have 3.5 attacks per second, that's really hard as Kog'Maw.
That's how you get carpal tunnel.
And get better posture, I suppose. And he's got multiple hastes on his team, so that there's actually more distance to cover in between those movements. More so than ever for a Kog'Maw player. Lod really has to test his mechanics. Oh,
Impact.
getting away from these champions. Impact and Seraph in a 1v1. Impact does not quite land the stun. Has a level lead. Oh, the Repose expected it. And Pop's looking for some movement speed. Moon's going to come in with the Spiderling. Tried to Mad Life the Seraph Q, who held it. Very, very well played escape by Seraph, but still him losing a lot of health, and it's top lane priority for NRG.
Yep, and really NRG, they get wave control top lane. Their bottom lane is actually being shoved in on Renegade's side, so they have to answer that. So this is a turret going over to NRG based off of that play and pushing Seraph all the way out of that lane.
And Dragon's back up as well as Baron in about 6 seconds here, which all coincide with this inhibitor still being down and Super still pushing in. No Hurricane yet for Freeze. He's still waiting for that item to come in for him, so he doesn't have great wave clear. Alex is really the only one with really meaningful minion killing here. As NRG continue to pressure the map better despite being 2,000 gold down.
This is going to be another turret going over to NRG. They have such great zoning tools here. You see Lot even just throwing out the ooze to make sure that people cannot approach very quickly. I also love how GBM has been throwing out his bombs just as zoning tools.
Yeah.
Ground target and spell.
Constantly
Really
wave
good at
clearing first. He's always first. He's always first. He's going for heavily scaling gold as well. Again, Rod of Ages and Tier. He's got 2 stacks on Roa. His first lick of really efficient gold coming in. Easy Dragon 3. NRG are just completely in control despite being behind.
And I normally don't like that build, but I like that build against Renegades because Renegades is a team that you don't expect to make a whole lot of early game moves, and you're trying to stall it out. But you get to these power spikes and freeze! Woo!
Yeah. Thankfully hops into Impact, doesn't get stunned. No plays being made there. Easy red buff, 1 more hit. Friend whenever he wants it. All right, red buff secured. Level 11 on this Kalista. I don't think I've even seen him use the ulti yet this game.
Yeah, they haven't really been forcing any fights.
Yeah. It's just a problem when you're the team that's ahead.
Yeah, it's a champion that was being taken away from Freeze in the first week of the LCS for Renegades because he just kept throwing in Remy. That's how they got their win. He went 11-2-7 on this champion, and then it was banned against him multiple times following that.
Yeah.
Now he's back on that, but we aren't seeing him actually pull the trigger on throwing Hakuho in.
All right, well, maybe they can find that engage, because if the team fight doesn't open up with some kind of flank, Lotta's gonna rip through people on Hurricane Rageblade Kog'Maw.
Incredibly power spiked right now. As soon as you stack up that Rageblade, the Hurricane will actually apply. The bolts will do that.
The AoE magic damage. It's gonna be like in the tune of like 40 extra damage on hit.
Plus
Hurricane does 15. Gets 50 attack damage as well from KonKwon. Like, this is a very deadly Kog'Maw.
And he might just shred the Baron here. He does it very quickly.
But they've got to respect the fact they got spotted. This team does not have any tanks that aren't split pushers. Moon went Runic Echoes. He's not exactly tanky here. An Impact was sent to the bottom lane here. That inhibitor has come back up, and the total gained by energy there was, what, 2-3 turrets and a dragon. Yep. That extra wave pressure has helped them.
Well, the wave pressure gave them some turrets, but it honestly gave Renegades a decent amount of gold in that lane.
Yeah.
And funneling that into Seraph.
And look at the farm numbers.
Yep. A 20 CS advantage for him, but of course, you always have to take into account what's the value of the minions that he's getting. So the super minion value versus what you would get normally. In a wave just like this, with none.
Yep. Renegades holding a gold lead despite the 6-4 turret score. 3 dragons to 0, though, still something important for energy. As they've held map control, they have continued to accrue a way to just win the game with Dragon 5, leading to a successful team fight more often than not.
And now they're going straight for this open inhibitor back to the scene of the crime.
Very smart. Energy remaining objective focused. Only 1 kill doesn't matter. They're killing the base properly. They're killing the objectives on the map. Moon chunked a little bit down. Lod getting plenty of damage, of course, but now they have to kite back. Jeez, Crumbzz just refusing to respect how much damage Kog'Maw deals.
Yeah, that range too, but there goes Impact.
Really putting some damage onto him. They trade back and forth. Ooh, nice double bomb, Hakuho. Forced to get ulted out by Kalista. The re-engage onto the inhibitor. The knock-up onto Lod, who went too far forward. They pile drive, but the Janna shield comes up and keeps him alive thanks to Monsoon. Lod is not dead, and in fact, he sniped out Crumbzz. A 1-for-0 to the favor of energy, plus the inhibitor, plus the walk-away save.
Seraph has home guard, a little bit of movement speed, but he's just going to clear this wave out, and that's going to be 1 kill going over to energy, but they end up getting the inhibitor once again. The Renegades, they've had a gold lead pretty much the entire game, but they have not had pressure on the map.
They have pressured nothing. Okay, Seraph, be dangerous. Blocks both bombs. They just disappear. GBM probably should have not cast the second one, but that was kind of funny. Yeah,
No
he was
stun
too
off
fast to react to his own movements. Seraph Literally just nullified 3 spells.
Hectic fight here. Crumbzz is already chunked out. And that's when Impact decides to hit Hakuho against the wall. Seraph ulti comes out, but he can't chase because Steadfast Presence. Double bomb. QSS comes through just to pull out Hakuho, keep him alive. Throws himself back in, even though they have Crumbzz and Seraph in the fountain.
Yeah, but look at Impact.
Crumbzz is walking away now, like he can't really contribute anything. And Hakuho went back in. It's quite a questionable move there, but they only lose one member.
I mean, Kog'Maw was out of position.
Yeah.
Like, Lod got caught. The problem was the 2 big tanks of Renegades lost all their health leading up to the fight by not respecting the poke damage.
Exactly.
Lo and behold, you lose.
Having no front line, then you collapse. Kog'Maw is allowed to be out of position. And even just on top of all of that, if the Kog'Maw's out of position, the Zilean's got his back.
Yeah.
It's very difficult composition to deal with that NRG have drafted. Lots of disengage, lots of ways to keep the Kog'Maw safe. And then even if you catch him, or you catch the Zilean, you still have to wait the revive time.
Well, it's just nice seeing how practiced NRG are with this composition. Impact has been able to internalize what a Zilean means for him. He's playing over-aggressively in any comp but this one. Diving in 1v4. Like, when he walked up and stunned Hakuho, inside of 4 people, he's like, yeah, but I have Zilean.
Yep.
I'm gonna set up a double bomb. If they chase me, they just get stunned and die. Didn't you have to get ulted? Because now Renegades realize, oh, right, if we go for him, he just gets revived, and that's useless. And it feels like Renegades just don't know when to go in and what to go in for. And NRG are pushing their limits pretty well, honestly.
Yeah, there were a lot of opportunities in the past that Renegades could have capitalized on. Alex has been a little hesitant to leave his mid lane. He's got a 50 CS advantage, but he's just been a wave clear bot. He's been throwing out his E over and over again, and now Impact.
Attempted play onto Impact. Here's Rek'Sai. There's a knockup by Poppy.
Seraph
looking for the fight to have, and Hakuho gonna take some damage. Gets ulted back in. Seraph is dealing with minions in the bot lane, so yes, NRG are outnumbering. Lod machine guns down. The red buff says thank you. I would love to apply true damage to 3 different people.
And now they're going to go straight for this Baron. Pink ward control in the area, blue trinket down, and now they see it being started.
Lod has to kite away from the Baron knockup, does so, saves some damage that way. Crumbzz and Hakuho and Freeze all looking for a play to make. There was no flash on this Rek'Sai, which means Steadfast Presence just stops the tunnel in.
Yeah, if Poppy can stop this, possibly ulti him out, but they just want to fight.
Looking for the play. Hakuho stunned up, taken down. Moon gets the execute, and now Crumbzz running away from Lod, whose W is going to time out here. So now a window of weakness as Moon keeps getting damaged and nearly goes down and does get revived. Okay.
He does go down, but he gets back up.
Gets the spider back up the water spout. And now they're going to go right back in for Baron. The support of Renegade's now dead. Hakuho never even got to cast a spell. No flash, no exhaust, no ultimate. Just didn't do anything.
Yeah, too far forward. Kalista ulti not available. And now that might be Baron here for NRG.
Trying to play again. TP in from Impact is going to flank Freeze, who took the wrong way around. Slowed up, stunned up, killed out easily. Lod with another one.
And that's what NRG keep doing. They have that incredible movement speed from the Zilean. Just speed up one member. You can speed up 2 members if you want by using Rewind.
Easy. And another attempt here. Now Freeze is dead. Hakuho can run back across the map, but no, Seraph has to hold bottom. Crumbzz. I can't see him possibly making this work. Now Alex has just lost a flash. NRG goes right back to Baron. Says, that's cute, you tried. You're still not going to stop us, Moon. Low on health, will get the smite, I assume. Alex pretty far away, will not do what GBM did so many weeks ago. No Viktor steal here. Impact, yeah, he's tanky. You're not going to kill him. Walks away, properly secured Baron. They got 2 kills and a flash by baiting it properly. Still got the Baron.
Yep, and that's going to be a gold being evened out here. But of course, gold leads in this game definitely are going to lie to you. The pressure advantage has been NRG's the entire time. They have that Kog'Maw and the team comp. Well, Zilean basically will give you a large boost in gold for a short period of time.
Yeah. So interesting stuff here. Renegades kept trying to 4v5 the Baron, 3v5 the Baron. This Dragon was up the entire time, by the way. When all of NRG are stuck inside the Baron pit, Renegades could have just said, you know what, you're right. You got the Baron. Instead, they tried to stop it, lost a kill. Tried to stop it, lost a kill. Tried to stop it, lost a flash. Well, they still lost Dragon.
Yeah, they tried to stop it one at a time, and Seraph wasn't there. They caught out Hakuho. Seraph, I believe he had TP for the initial one, and then didn't use it until too late. Then that's when Hakuho got caught. And now this Baron's just going to allow them to siege, and Alex, he's the wave clear. But they still have a lot on their plate here. Might have to open him.
Already going in for the play. Knock up on a Freeze. They can't quite stun him against the wall, but they've blown up Alex Hitch already. Hakuho pulled out by Fate's call, but will it really matter here? Impact tanking the front line. Moon also just zoning him away as best as he possibly can. Middle inhibitor going to be going down. Well-played game so far by NRG, going back to the scene of the crime, knocking down that inhibitor again and again to make sure they had the map control to play for the objectives. They've continued to do so. Now the dive into the back line. Hakuho goes down. Impact can't dive possibly at all. The tank's just getting shredded. Lod continues to kill basically everybody, and NRG picking up right where they left off, taking his opponents down as usual. Sub 30-minute win, as you would have expected from NRG over Renegades. Taking care of business with properly played League of Legends.
And NRG get a much-needed win there.
Yeah.
To start off week 7. They play Renegades and Impulse. Possibly going 2-0 this week will help them stay in playoff position.
And Lod, the most damage on the team.
Yep.
To be fair, that is Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw typically does that.
And around that point in the game, too.
Sure.
So they played around him incredibly well. I loved the composition again. We saw Zilean Poppy be a gigantic threat in the hands of NRG previously, and then you saw on the other side, the Renegades, they didn't do too much damage this game. Freeze was locked down, he was targeted. Seraph was basically having to split push the entire time, and when they gave up that trade, tier 2 for tier 2, but then so much more went over to NRG. They ended up getting the inhibitor turret. They ended up getting the inhibitor, and that's where the pressure came in for the rest of the game that put Seraph in a lane and made him useless. He was occupied the entire time.
Yep. Well, when you have to sit there fighting supers the entire time, they don't have vitals. They're robots. They don't have feelings the same way. And no easy split push here for the Fiora. And Freeze, I mean, can't help but feel frustrated. They started that game pretty much the best you possibly could have.
Yep.
A failed invade in favor of Renegades on both sides of the map. They were up in gold for 95% of this game. And very bad choices multiple times. The mid-game trade for the inhibitor, the late-game fights for the Baron. Renegades just completely let this game slip away.
Yeah, they were proactive at the start. They went into the jungle. They were able to counter, and they got 2 kills. And then they just sat on their hands with that lead. They didn't push it. They didn't use the engage, the Kalista ulti, throwing them in. They were run around the map by the composition that Renegades, that NRG had.
Yep. Meanwhile, NRG just playing a very objective-focused game. There were only 2 assists missing total. The scoreline of 7-2 and 26. The most possible was 7-2 and 28. So Lod and KonKwon missed out on 1 kill. That was it. Everyone else, 100% good participation. They just played for the turrets. They played for Dragon. They played for the inhibs. Just a structured game by NRG. Props to them. Good win by these guys. We'll see if they can do it again tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to check in with Dom, who's standing by with